Queries in Roam can bring you a lot of power, but they're daunting because the format is a bit confusing to parse when you look at it, and I'm hoping in this video I can break down a little bit more of when and how you can make good use of queries. First of all, sort of an overview here. I think of queries as, and I'm using a term from Robert Hasefield, an early Roman, he called them saved views of filters. So that's the way I think of queries too. Effectively, if you find yourself very frequently filtering the same content on a specific page, that may be a sign that a query would be useful. Because you're going to the same filters each time, you might as well, quote unquote, hard code that in a query. Now, bear in mind, because queries are similar to filters in that regard, they do have the same limitations as filters as well. So it will not show sibling relationships. If I were to have this as a page reference, for instance, and I put it in a query, I could find these two because they're both children of this block. But if I had relations wouldn't work. If I had the word child in a query, and this were a page reference, I would be able to see this, but I would not be able to see the block next to it. I wouldn't be able to see the sibling relationship. So it's just be aware of that page references, they build that relationship through parent-child, much as I talk about in the indenting video earlier. So it's a challenge at times to recognize what will show up in a query, but once you get used to sort of the logic of how page references and indenting work, that will save you a lot of trouble in Roam, both in the filters and in the queries. When you are working with queries, you can, and I'm just going to bounce down here to where I'm going to demo in a moment, to show you there are a couple of options: group by page and show paths. So down here I have a query that says that I'm going to look for things that are in the inbox, and we'll break down these formats here in a moment. But over here on the right, you can see there is a gear icon for settings. You can choose to toggle on or off group by page and show paths, and let me show you what those mean. Right now you can see each of these results has a page name up top. These happen to be daily notes pages, but they're still pages. If I were to turn off group by page, those would go away. You'd still be able to see what page it's on because you're still showing the path. But if I take off, it won't be grouped by specifically the pages that it's on. So let me turn that back on. If I turn off show paths, the thing that will disappear is all of that giving you the path to that block. So you can no longer see the parents and grandparents and so forth of the block if you turn off show paths. If you turn off both, you can have just sort of a dedicated list like this. Now, in a query like this is not a particularly useful query, that wouldn't, that just turns this into nonsense. But there could be applications of a query where you don't care what page it's on and you don't care what path leads to it. You just need to see the results. In a query like that, turning both these settings off could be valuable. So that's group by page. It takes off the page references at the top. And show paths, or toggling it on and off, will remove the path to where that block is in your Roam graph, from the top level page all the way down through each parent-child relationship to where it is. So that's that. One last thing before we talk about the format. Queries do occasionally create performance issues in Roam, especially the larger your graph gets. My main graph, I'm doing this demo in a demo graph, which has effectively nothing in it. And so you won't notice a performance issue here. In my main graph, I have a ton of content, and it does create performance issues if I have a bunch of different queries in view. But in view is the key. There's a little toggle caret here on the side, and if you close that caret, the query, not only will the results go away, but it is no longer running that query. So when you close that, the query will stop affecting performance. If you're having any performance lag, closing up the query will help that. In my own task management system, I have it set up so that the queries that I use, I have a few saved views that are very valuable to me in task management. So I have queries for those. I don't run them all at once. I have them set up in toggles, so I can toggle them open, toggle them closed, and that way I don't have any major performance lag within my Roam graph. A little, but not enough to worry about, and certainly not enough. It's way more valuable. I can put up with just a little bit of performance lag in that case. But this will help you avoid that if you ever encounter it. All right, let's talk about format. So essentially, when you're setting up a query in Roam, the good news is you can actually do it with the right forward slash in the slash menu here. You can find queries of different types already set up for you. So we'll show that in a minute, but I'm going to show you the formatting before I do sort of the shortcut. So when you're setting up a query, a basic query requires 2 double braces around query. It does not require that the word query be in double brackets here, but it's useful to put it in double brackets, because if you have just the word query and no double brackets around it, you have no way of accessing that via filters or other queries. Meaning, if you do put double brackets around it, now you have a way of, if you want to not look at other queries when you're filtering things or within a separate query, you can remove queries because you have a way of doing it. You have a reference to it here. So the double braces required, the double brackets not, but I recommend them because it gives you a little bit more power. Then you have a colon, and then you have, this is a basic query. You have to have an AND statement, even if you only have one option here. So the basic query has an AND statement within a single brace, another colon, and then the page reference that you want to query. So in this case, I am querying inbox. This is not a particularly useful query, but it's certainly good for demoing what's going on here. So by querying inbox, because this is a demonstration graph, I have a lot of references to inbox. They're not useful, but you can see how that works. So I have inbox references that show up when I use this format. Let's build that by hand once so you can see it. Double braces, double bracket for query, colon, single brace, and then double brackets around inbox. And that's the query. That's how it's built. You can also do it using the forward slash menu, as I showed a moment ago. Query, choose and, even though you're only going to do one item. And then once you have it in here, it'll give you a format with sort of an example here. You can just delete those and put in whatever it is that you want. So now you have the query, and it will show up. And you'll note that when you use the slash menu, Roam also defaults to giving you the double brackets around query. So Roam agrees that that's the way to do it. Just as a second example, here's a query laid out the same way for projects. Again, useless as far as any valuable information, but useful in order to demonstrate for you how it works. So this is showing every time the word projects is brought up in my graph here. And if I wanted to do that one by hand, double brace, double bracket, query, colon, and colon, projects. And there is the query with the results. And with the slash menu, forward slash query and, remove the ones you don't need, and query projects. Oops, not project, but projects. Okay, and there you go. That's the basic query format. Now, moving on from basic, we can also query two things together. Now, in this case, inbox and projects doesn't have anything showing up where it's both of them, but you'll notice that the format, all that has to happen is that you put two references after the and. So this is saying, this is looking for things that have both inbox and projects referenced. And let me show you that it will work here. Demo, inbox, projects. And that will immediately show up right here in the query. And that would show up in the query no matter where I put it in my Roam graph. I put it right here for the ease of demonstration purposes, but wherever this might happen to be, it would show up in this query. Now, something I haven't mentioned yet about queries, but just like embeds and other similar Roam features. They are the fancy word transclusion here. You can actually go through and you can modify this within the query, and you can see it automatically made the change in the original location. So this is actually a window back to the source material. Just like you can copy a block ref. If you copy that block ref, the block ref you're copying is this block ref here. There is no separate for the query. It is a window through to the original block. Okay, so this format, as you can see, is laid out with just the two references you want to compare with an and, or conjoin, I guess, with an and in the query. So you wanted to build this one by hand, double brace, double bracket, query, colon, that's not a colon, there we go, single brace, and then whatever two that you want to combine. And I said two there, but it's actually whatever you want to combine. If I wanted to add a third, I could say it has to be inbox, it has to be project, and it has to be third option. And you'll notice as soon as I do this, suddenly no results here. Why? Because this block doesn't have a third option. Still up here in the two, but not in the third. The moment I add third option here, it will show up in both queries, because now it's and for all three. So that's the basic and functionality. How about or? Sometimes you may want to know things that are in one or the other. So this query is either inbox or projects. You'll notice the format is the same, except instead of the word and, we have the word or. That's fairly straightforward as far as that goes. And now we have 22 results because this is both inbox and projects. You may recall up here under basic ones, when we just looked at one, we had 17 inbox and we had 6 of projects. And when we have both, we have 22. Well, why isn't it 23? Well, because the one we added had both inbox and projects in it. So that would be one of each. So in other words, the reason when we add them together there, we will have one less because one of them contains both, and the rest of them only contain one or the other of them. So the or, that's worth noting. It is an inclusive or. So it is either of them or both of them. So if it happens to have both, and the same thing would be true if we added a third of this. If we added our, let's go ahead and build it from scratch so you can watch that one more time. Double brace, double bracket, query, colon, or this time, inbox, projects, and let's do our third option. It is an inclusive or, and we will get third option, and we will also get everything else. Okay, so it won't exclude third option. Let's create added this. So really, these two queries are functionally identical because we're only using third option in one spot. If I were to create a demo block here that I put only third option in, you will find that this will now have 23 results. The one that has that one alone, and then of course all of the ones that have either or all of those, or you get the concept. It's an inclusive or. Okay. Now we can do and or. So we can have some things that are required and others that are optional. Optional is not exactly the right word, but you get what I mean. So it has to have inbox, and it also has to have one or the other of, in this case, projects or someday that I put here. So in this case, this one has inbox and projects. So you can see it shows up there. If I were to take projects out, remember I can edit the original just right through the query. That won't show up here anymore because it has inbox, but it needs to have either projects or someday also attached in order to show up in this query. So let's look at the format of this. It's query, and this is critical, and is from here to here, and or is within the and. Okay? So it's not and then it closes off, and then or and it closes off. It's and opens, and then within and, or begins. And when you do that, then you're going to have two braces at the end to close or, and then to close and then two more to close the query. So if I were to use, using our third option tool that we did before, so if I were to have a query here, a double brace, double bracket, query, colon, open a new brace here, and inbox, and then open another brace, or projects, third option. We're just going to get the one that had all three. And the reason we're only going to get the one that had all three is the one I created alone only had third option in it. How about we do this? Let's go up here and add inbox to it. And now you will find that our query that we just created has both, because we have one that has inbox, and then it has both projects and third option. And then we have one that has just inbox and third option. So it makes sense. Sorry, my click went out of control there. It makes sense in that we have inbox here. We have to have inbox. And then we can either have projects or third option. So if I were to remove inbox from either of these, that would remove it from the query because it's required for this. And/or is an option that you can grab from the slash menu. So if I went here and hit / query, you can see the and/or format that I just showed you can come up automatically. Sometimes we don't want, to include either optionally or required. We don't want to include, but we want to exclude from a query. That's when we want to be able to use not. Not is similar in the sense that it needs to be within the and portion. So we look at the formatting of it here. You'll see query. And is here, but and doesn't close until out here. And not is entirely contained within the and of the query. So formatting is the same, and you can see this is anything that's tagged inbox, but is not tagged task routine. So if I were to take that off, if I were to make this, well, let's just do them. Let's just create them separately. Let's do one here where that it's just inbox. So I'll make the query. Query, and inbox. This will be our original, 18 result query here. You can keep adding results as we go as I add more of these. But then when I take it from 18, well, let me go through the query here. You'll see a number of these have tasks routine in the upline. So above, somewhere in the parent-child relationship above inbox, tasks routine is one of the things that's there. So by filtering out with a not statement, not tasks routine, we now eliminate all of those and we get back down to the 5 results that we saw when we opened this one up here. So that's how not works. Formatting is the same as the or in that it lives inside the and, but it instead of saying it has to include the and then it must also include one or the other of something in the or. This way it says it cannot include what this remaining one is. Okay? Now, we have a couple of others, and we're almost done here. The not or is saying, this one is saying, so I say and inbox, not or task routine, task for today. That means it must include inbox, but it cannot include either tasks routine or tasks today. So you'll notice by limiting tasks today, we went down from the 5 that we had above here. There were 5 results here, and one of those included in its upline tasks today. It's this one here on November 13th. By excluding either task routine or tasks today, we have now eliminated that one, and we have only 4 results here. Okay? Formatting, the same. You'll notice in this case, the not comes first, so we have our not inside the and then the or is inside the not, because and logically that makes sense because it's where it's not one of these things, and we're saying not multiple things, and in this case, or is the only logical sense there when you're talking about not. You wouldn't be able to say not and. So let's sort of type it and work it up from scratch here. Double brace, double bracket, query, and we're including inbox. If we were to run it from this state, we'd get our 18 results. And then we could say, okay, well, we'll exclude tasks routine. And excluding tasks routine will get us our 5 results. And then we say, no, I want to exclude that. And also I want to exclude anything that might be tasks today. So we'll put braces around that. Or tasks routine, tasks today. I'm sorry, I missed it there. Today. And by doing so, now we've gotten from our 5 results to our 4 results, and this is our original query here. So that's NotOr. And then last, something you can't actually grab from the slash menu is between. And between uses dates to determine, something here. So if I say and inbox, and then note the formatting, the between lives inside the and. Worth noting, I'm not going to do it because we can get to enormous complexity. We're already 20 minutes in here. But the between does not go inside the not or the or. The between is inside the and, but it would go after a not or after an or after a not or combination. So the between does not go inside. It does go inside and, as you can see here, but it would not go inside not or. And there's logic to that too, if you stop and think about it. In this case, you just put the first date and the second date after the between, and you'll get anything that occurs that references those dates in between those dates. You'll notice here, just because of when I was creating these, we have an 18th, October 18th is the first, and the December 3rd is the last, because 17th is the 4th. If I were to make this the 19th instead of the 17th, remember there was an October 18th reference there. If I make that the 19th, that October 18th reference goes away because it's not between there. Same thing if I turn the December 4th reference to a, say, December 1st reference. Now you'll notice the December 3rd is gone. So between is just simply everything that is between two dates, and it sits within the and just the same way that or not fit inside the and. So queries, I want to encourage you to experiment with queries, but I also want you to encourage you to not feel like queries are something you absolutely must have in your Roam implementation of something. Queries are very useful in fairly specific, relatively limited circumstances. I use several specific queries within my task management system, for example. But that's because I know I'm always going to need to find things that happen next when I'm in my office. And so I can create a query that puts and next and office and excludes things like done and a couple other things that are unique to the way I have my system laid out. But that query is something I'm going to visit literally every day. And so it's useful to have that set up. But if it's not something you're going to see a lot, just use filters. It's easier on the performance for the graph. It doesn't require you to think about the complexity of the query format. But this is how it works. And if you find a good use for it, if it's something where you need a saved view of something, queries can be a really powerful way to help you get more out of your Roam graph. If this video helped you, click subscribe. And check out my Roam courses as well. I have the Roaman Way, which is a free course to help you learn the fundamentals of Roam research. I have AP Productivity, which is my flagship Roam course. It is an 8-week live cohort course to help you get important work done in Roam research. I have Powerful Task Management in Roam research, which helps you build a GTD-style setup for task management in Roam. And I have Your Road to Roam, which I'm actually updating in November or December of 2021. And it is a deeper dive than the free course, The Roaman Way. It has live masterclasses, Q&A sessions, additional instruction about Roam extensions, especially Smart Blocks and Roam 42, which you can get from roamjs.com. And there's a community forum for discussion of new Roam features or help with your workflows. Roam research is an amazing tool, and I want to help you make the most of it in your life and work.